Hello, and welcome to the Kathleen Spracklin podcast. I am a woman on a mission to gather a cadre of writers, thinkers, and teachers who are transforming the world one character at a time. And it all starts with one thing, a deep understanding of human motivation, why people do what they do, and the forces that drive them. To gain that understanding, I am mining the intersection of psychology, theology, and philosophy to make you a better writer. This is episode 104, Producing Writing from a Zettelkasten. This is an answer to a question. Nikos, this is your question. Nikos wanted to know how I take the material from my Zettelkasten, how do I organize it in such a way that I can then produce a product out of the Zettelkasten. And it happened to be really good timing for this because I am finishing up my monthly newsletter, which goes to print on the 15th of May. So getting close now. And so I'm in the prime of having the most stuff out. And that's why I've kind of got the big circle of me today, because it's not really something where I can make props, digital props to show you what I'm doing. It's just way too much stuff. And I've already tried in the past taking snapshots and uploading the picture. It doesn't work too well. So I'm going to try to simply hold things up to the camera so that you can see what I'm doing. So it's a bit of an experiment, so bear with me. When I'm ready to start a new project, something that I'm planning to write, when I'm first starting to organize myself and organize my thoughts, I generally start from a 4x6 card, surprise, surprise, that just gathers random ideas. And I'm going to show you such a card. It's grown to 2 cards. And the second card was actually the first one that I produced. So I'm going to see if I can get this up to the camera. Now what this card is, it's just ideas of things that might go onto my newsletter or pieces that would feed into it, and where that information, the writing, can be found. So where is this writing found? Sometimes the writing is found in cards that I pull from my system. Sometimes the writing is written on a yellow legal pad. And I'd like to explain a little bit about how I work with a yellow legal pad. For me, sometimes a legal pad acts like a jumbo bib card. I've already shown you how I take a bib card, which is like the front side has information about the source and the back side is notes. Well, one of my philosophies that I have is that every time I write something on a yellow legal pad, I always have a reference to it in my Zettelkasten. If I can show you up close, there's a bit of an experiment here. All of these numbers in the margin, I'm not getting them very well to where you can read them. These numbers underneath these are just the topics, and all of these numbers underneath here are references to cards in my Zettelkasten. And in my world, any card can become an internal bibliography card. And what I mean by that is any card can contain a reference to something that's on one of my legal pads. It's a very simple way to do that. The only requirement is the addition of this star. If I've added this star to the card, it's an asterisk. And if I just have put that asterisk, that tells me that there's information on the back of the card. That's all that star tells me. Look on the back of the card. For the most part, I only write on the fronts of cards. But on the back of the card, I will indicate where to find this information in one of my yellow legal pads. My legal pads are all numbered. This one, and I'm not sure if I can bring it close enough for you to be able to see it, is R, because it's always a reference, D24. I've forgotten what the D stands for, but this is number 24. And I always include the starting and closing date on the legal pads. And then afterwards, I always save them. I'm going to pause a sec to go get some. Here are some of my recent legal pads. What I do with a legal pad when I'm ready to file it is it gets a number designation and it gets a vinyl folder, and I slip it in there. That way, whenever I need to reference one of my legal pads, I can always find it. And it goes without saying that every page gets a number. If I don't have a number on the page, there's no way that I'm going to be able to find that item again. So every page in my journal, every article in my journal, referenced somewhere in my Zettelkasten. And furthermore, it goes both ways. The card where it's referenced is written on the legal pad, and on the back of the card is the address of the journal. So they point to each other. So how does this impact what I'm doing for my newsletter? When I'm working on my newsletter, I'm also oftentimes dealing with I'm pulling my ideas together. And as I pull my ideas together, it's a back and forth thing between creating and referencing. So I will pull a collection of cards from my Zettelkasten and usually clip them with one of these. And there'll be collections like this, multiple ones for different topics. And I'll end up, by the time I'm done, I'll end up with quite a stack of pulled cards for the various topics. Now, what keeps those so that I can put them back again? One of the magics is an out card. And if you could look at some of my drawers, by the time I'm deep in the business of creation, there are a whole lot of out cards spread around this drawer, and other drawers have a lot of out cards as well, because I'm pulling from different areas and different sections to make a completed newsletter, to create the whole picture that I want to create. So then when I'm ready to start pulling it together, Nikos, you wanted to know about my outline. Well, here's my outline. It's the topics that I plan to cover in the newsletter, and then it indicates where I'm pulling from. These two cards indicate where I'm pulling from to get those topics. So I'm not sure if I have answered your question all the way, but I wanted to make sure that I shared with you a few tips. When I'm writing, I sometimes get to a situation where I end up feeling frozen. And I start spinning my wheels. And when that happens, I've learned a trick that helps me get through it. I've got these little bitty note cards, and they've got a cute word on them. It says blocked. And what happens, the way I end up spinning, is I'm getting ready to write a section, and I run into a problem. Either, I'm not sure that I really want to put this here. Maybe I really want to put that over there. If I put it here, I'll have to be really brief. But if I wait and put it over there, I'm kind of, so I'm just jumbling. I'm running in circles. And so then I stop myself cold and grab a little block card, put a sticky note on it, and I explain to myself in words why I'm stuck. In this case, it says that I'm not covering the topic in the order in which I've named them. That's not a big deal. It means I'm either going to have to change the order in which I've named them, or if I've named them in the proper order, then I've got to figure out a way to make the whole thing smooth. But it's enough to stall me. I have another one that's blocked. There's a piece of information that I want to include in my newsletter, and I don't have a transition into it. It would be too abrupt to just, whoop, out of the blue, start covering that piece of information. So these are two things that are like telling me, Well, once the mere fact that I've written down that there's a block there, already my brain is working on, well, then if I do this, well, then if I do that. Or it gives me permission sometimes to just say, okay, I'm going to not work on that piece. I'm just going to leave those there, but I'm not going to forget that I wanted to tackle that. And having the little block cards there reminds me to get back to them so that it won't be like, oh, I forgot to include that section and I so wanted it to be in my newsletter. Let's see, what else can I share with you that helps with this? I think it's important to understand the kinds of reading that you might be doing. And if you're reading in a very targeted way for a very specific piece of information and for a very specific work, it will sometimes come about that all of the cards are very, very close together. For me, I consider that a defect. I try to avoid having things like that happen. And my reasoning is that I want my ideas to fly off like seeds. My image is the fluffy white dandelion, and all the little seed pods go flying. Because if the ideas become magical when they interact. And if you take a book and you end up with a stack of note cards and they're 1A, 1B, 1C, bum, 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 boom, boom, boom. Well, did you really create entries in your Zettelkasten, or did you just take a commonplace notebook and put it in note card form? My feeling is that if you are on a topic and there's a nuance in the topic, I would rather take that nuance and file the card on the closest related thing to the nuance rather than on the closest related thing to the main topic, because it will often broaden my perspective and just make things pop and bring ideas that I hadn't previously thought about collected together. It has a big drawback, though, when it's time to write, and that is the scattered out cards, because the ideas did get scattered. However, you have a magical device that will bring them all back together for you. You have your bib card. So if you find that you want to reference, 3 or 4 notes from the same source, your bib card will locate them for you. Provided that, and I haven't shown this to you folks yet, one of the things that I also include on my bib card, I usually near where I put the page number on the bib card, I put the number of the main card that came off that bib card, so I can find it again in my Zettelkasten. So I can find it by the bib card, I can find it by the index, and sometimes I can find it by the categories, but boy, those categories can get invaded very quickly. So you might start off with those 4 digits and you got your categories all worked out, but if you're really filing cards with the most closely related card, those categories aren't going to stay pure for very long, and that's a good thing. So I guess I've gone on quite far enough. I hope I've answered your question, and if not, Nikos, I will meet you over in Lily Pub, and we'll talk some more about it there. Okay, bye-bye.